Snails' Silly Christmas. On a crisp winter evening, a green snail in a bright red scarf decided to organise an unconventional Christmas celebration. At the centre of a snowy clearing stood a small pine tree already festooned with paper ornaments and ribbons. The snail called together friends: a hedgehog sporting a tiny hat, an orange fox with a Santa cap, a grey squirrel, a white rabbit with a warm red scarf, a gentle deer with small antlers, and a dark brown bear in a red sweater. They agreed this year would be different. No store-bought decorations, no predictable songs, only creativity and laughter. The next morning, the hedgehog unveiled his latest project. Using acorns, twigs, and a dash of imagination, he began building a tiny gingerbread house. The snail slithered up with a gumdrop balanced on its shell, offering it as a rooftop ornament. Nearby, the fox and squirrel chuckled at the hedgehog's concentration, while the rabbit peeked shyly from behind a snow-laden bush. The sight of a miniature house crafted from forest treasures set the tone for the whole celebration. Nothing would be ordinary. When it came time to distribute homemade gifts, the fox insisted on a grand entrance. He fashioned a sled from oversized leaves, loaded a sack with pine cone presents, and perched the snail on the back as co-pilot. With a whoop, they launched down a snowy hill. The sled sped faster than expected, scattering wrapped acorns and pine cones in its wake. Watching from the hilltop, the hedgehog waved and laughed as the leaf-sled tumbled through soft drifts, leaving a trail of gift-filled fun. Later in the day, the squirrel took charge of hanging ornaments. Ever energetic, he ran from branch to branch, stringing coloured baubles anywhere he could reach. Only after a long garland was hung did a sleepy owl emerge from its nest, eyes wide, covered in dangling trinkets. The owl blinked in astonishment, while the fox and snail burst into giggles. Realising the mistake, the squirrel blushed, but the owl simply shook its head and declared its home the most festive nest in the forest. As dusk approached, the rabbits formed a choir. Wearing matching red scarves, they sang familiar melodies about snow and stars, while a group of green frogs croaked along from lily pads, adding a deep, rhythmic bass. The snail tapped its shell in time. The fox and hedgehog clapped their paws, and even the deer hummed. The improvised carol session filled the clearing with music that was charmingly off-key, yet full of spirit, proving that enthusiasm matters more than perfection. Not wanting the merriment to end, the bear announced a talent show. He set up a stage from stacked tree slices and donned his red sweater like a master of ceremonies. First on stage was the snail, who performed an impressive drum solo using acorn caps. Next, the fox dazzled the audience by juggling pine cones, narrowly avoiding the hedgehog in the front row. Then the hedgehog spun in a comical dance, his tiny hat wobbling with each twirl. The audience of rabbits and squirrel clapped until their paws tingled. When it came time to adorn the main tree, the deer suggested using natural decorations. Standing gracefully on its hind legs, it hung clusters of bright red berries and little mushrooms along the branches. The snail held a spool of ribbon, passing pieces to the fox, who strung them between branches. The hedgehog looked up in admiration at the sparkling tree, now glowing with forest colours. The unconventional ornaments were not only beautiful, but also delicious, as the squirrel soon discovered. No winter celebration is complete without a snowman. The bear rolled 3 huge snowballs, the hedgehog fetched twigs, and together they assembled the frosty figure. As the fox placed a hat on its head, the rabbit nibbled the carrot nose until it vanished. Shocked gasps turned into laughter when the snail produced another carrot from under its scarf. The new nose was carefully inserted, and the snowman smiled with renewed dignity, while the rabbit sheepishly wiped snow from its whiskers. On Christmas Eve, the animals gathered around a log table for a feast unlike any other. Instead of roasted chestnuts, they enjoyed pine cone pie, sweetened with sap, berry tarts bursting with colour, and acorn stew simmered over a tiny fire. The snail proudly presented a plate of leaf cookies, cut into star shapes. The bear poured tea brewed from spruce needles, filling the air with a fragrant scent. Each dish was met with delighted murmurs and the occasional giggle when someone tried to eat an especially prickly slice of pie. As night blanketed the forest, the celebration reached its climax. Fireflies arrived wearing tiny paper lanterns, casting a warm glow across the snow. Beneath this canopy of moving stars, the animals exchanged gifts they had made for one another. The snail handed the hedgehog a beautifully painted shell. The fox gave the rabbit a wreath woven from berries. The deer received a tiny wooden flute from the bear. They discovered that the greatest gift was their friendship, which shone brighter than any lantern. With hearts full and bellies content, they ended the night under a sky that twinkled in harmony with the firefly's gentle light. Through ingenuity, mischief, and mutual support, the forest creatures created an unconventional Christmas filled with laughter and warmth. The paper-like world they inhabited may have been thin and fragile, but the bonds they celebrated were as strong as the tallest pine tree. New bedtime stories every week. Subscribe to Dream Cloud Library so you never miss a dreamy adventure.